Hello, I'm Aleyda Solis, and this is SEO in 2025. We are already in 2025.
I thought you were going to forget your name then.
2025 is it's crazy. I forget the year. I forget my name. I forget, it's 2025. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Aleyda, what is your number one SEO tip for 2025?
My number one tip will be to target more and focus more on answering the long tail queries of your audience, of your users, because I do expect that we will see a much bigger and important impact into those as a consequence of AI overviews and personalized AI results that we expect to have in not such a long future from Google too, incentivizing users to refine their search, to, let's say, target more and focus more on the more specifics of the search, even if only with informational AI overviews that we see that Google pretty much feature additional queries, more specific queries at the end. And the format also that they tested for quite a bit that hasn't been officially launched live yet for the commercially focused product AI overviews that had this product pack type of a format that pretty much referred the users that were searching for mid of the funnel queries to PDPs. So it definitely brought refer or generated or brought or will brought more traffic and visibility to more detailed pages or pages that will tend to target more long tail type of queries otherwise.
So the long tail that you talk about, the long tail can be very long. So how do you know what long tail keywords to target?
So this is fantastic. I will say that look at the SERPs. I think that, this is great advice for many other reasons, but identifying which are those related questions that Google suggests within the AI overview directly. And then also the people also ask which are other type of topics that the top ranked pages or the pages that are cited from the AI overview snapshot right now are also addressing that you are not. So look for this additional inputs that are already telling you that these are actually very relevant, meaningful, reasonable questions that are already referred by Google, given visibility in one way or another in search results. So it actually makes sense for you to try to target. And of course, an additional layer of validation if this actually makes sense to you completely from a business standpoint, nature of your product or your service, if they actually connect with what you provide and how you can personalize them to have a positive impact to your brand and overall, let's say, conversion process or customer journey too.
Okay, because you talk about brand and conversion process, but you also talked about the AI snapshot. And should SEOs not be a little bit scared of targeting keyword phrases that may result in content being discovered in the AI snapshot and not result in a visit directly to their website?
So I have to say something, right? Like eventually, right now we might try to avoid them, right? Like let's not try to focus on those that will tend to have like a lower click-through rate, right? Or will give us right now at the moment like less visibility. On one hand, I believe that this gap is closing because in the latest results, we've seen how the top cited sources in the AI snapshots, on one hand, are provided much more visibility with the new sidebar. The look and feel, the format gives much more visibility and will certainly incentivize more the click-through rate through the top-cited sources on one hand. Sadly, right now, they haven't been released in a consistent way to like a very high number of queries to be able to assess the before and after. This is something that I'm looking to actually validate. But then on the other hand, and what is, I believe, more important is that there's a very high overlap now of the top-cited sources in the AI snapshot at the moment, and I expect that continues to be the case, and the ones of the top-ranked pages, the traditional top-ranked results. So what does this mean? Is that if you're already doing a great job ranking well organically, you're very likely going to be also showcased and be given visibility in the AI snapshot. So it should be a very low-hanging fruit for you to continue addressing these queries anyway. And eventually, I do expect that Google is true, might not necessarily provide visibility to those queries that can really harm a lot their own business model, not necessarily even the website, but their own business model. But there will be many queries that, because of the nature of your business and how you want to establish yourself as a brand, even if the click-through rate might not be huge, and it's not huge right now, and the direct value towards conversion might not be considered very high, it totally makes sense for you to try to get there if it reflects well on your business. For example, a lot of top-of-the-funnel terms or topics that you want to establish yourself as the authority, right? So what is important here is to be very strategical about it. It's like, what do? Do you generate yet another pillar page or yet another comprehensive how-to as all others are doing? Or how you establish yourself this sort of content that allows you to showcase what you do, that your unique selling proposition, but actually allows you to establish or to increase your visibility share, your share of voice, and to establish your brand within this field, right? If you want to become a leader of the field, of course, this is easier said than done, and this is something that you have. If you're just launching your brand, might not necessarily be worthy to do at this point. But if you have been developing your ongoing content strategy for a while and you're already working on targeting those, it totally makes sense to continue, but potentially in a little bit of a more strategical way, or endorsing better those more long tail type of questions, queries, and how you tie those with those more commercially driven that can potentially give you a little bit of more conversions or a return from a revenue standpoint too.
Do you imagine that over the next couple of years, it might be legally mandatory for AI-powered search engines to do a better job of citing sources?
Oh, yes. I mean, I believe that we're still going through this phase in which there are no rules, but on one hand, we have seen how LLMs have been learning from a lot of content that they haven't asked even permission from, and all of this back and forth with big publications and publishers and et cetera. There should be rules. I expect that in a few years, there are certain standards that should be followed that are reasonable and provides a good ground of operations for anybody who creates content, original content for the web, to allow the person to be referred or compensated in one or another way, even if it is not from a monetization standpoint. I believe it was Bing when they integrated first the LLM results that mentioned that they were working with major publications to see how they could split the revenue of the ads that they will display with those results and so on. And of course, I don't expect that this is viable with every single little player out there. But then we also have AdSense. I mean, and ads plays on websites and it's part of the business model from Google on one hand. So it's also, I would say, beneficial for Google to provide traffic to players or try to split traffic in some way when they are using these players' content in one way or another. So I do expect that this evolves in a way that is reasonable, in a way that is beneficial for all of the parts. And also, we are seeing how, interesting enough, the AI overviews were rolled back after the terrible initial results, and not only because of quality, but also because of the type of impact that they will certainly had for certain type of very commercially driven queries, and how they were not highlighting as much the sources, right? Which we can see how now that they have been released for non-logged-in users has changed. So this is the very obvious, even if they haven't highlighted this much. It's like, oh, we have this, it's like in a two-liner, right? This new way to see sources more prominently. It's like black and white, right? Like it's like night and day. It has changed so much and for the better, for sure. So I expect that this will continue to shift in a in a positive direction. It can only be because otherwise, what will be the incentive for players, even for minor publications, to keep the web diverse and rich and to continue sharing know-how out there?
It's the right thing to do. And I mean, it would be easy to compensate everyone that wanted to be compensated using blockchain, crypto, just for micropayments, if that was the case. It feels to me that part of the reason why websites aren't being cited is they want to be a little bit opaque with the sites that are being used for training data.
Potentially, yes. Yes. There are two things, right? The type of content that I take into account because of quality matters on one hand, then originality factors too, and then potentially also the backlash from regulatory issues or potential issues that can arise in the future that they are expecting that will happen eventually. So they are covering their backs. 100%, I agree.
You talked about commercially driven keywords and informational ones as well. How do you make a decision as to, it's easy enough to make a decision as to which one is which, but which one to actually target, which one will bring the longer term value by taking the efforts to create content for and publish that content?
I believe that on one hand, this completely needs to tie with your goals and your overall SEO strategy of which are the product lines that you want to push, the type of business that you have, how do you want to position yourself, and how much do you want to grow in terms of direct revenue, and what are the other metrics and goals that do you want to achieve, right? Like, for example, if you want to also bring more signups to your newsletter, upsell, cross-sell, provide a better customer support, that is also a goal for many established enterprise-level brands, and to minimize the number of direct contacts to your support system by providing a really good web experience for your existing customers through your support section. That's definitely a completely valid goal and metric and true for many enterprise level companies. So first is to understand what is your goal and then to align all of the efforts in order to connect whatever you do with this goal. So I can definitely see a very balanced split for most already established brands to have a share of more commercially driven, that will be the money-making queries, more direct to make revenue, that potentially could be the lower-hanging fruit ones, for which they are almost ranking on one hand. And then on the other hand, for the longer-term type of goal, is that if you really want to get the visibility that you deserve in your niche, in your sector, how you position yourself, especially, for example, e-commerce. E-commerce websites are one of those players that will tend to go like, oh, I want to go all commercial, all transactional. Why would I need to target informational-driven queries? Big mistake. In fact, we saw in AI overviews that were highlighting all of this product carousels, all these product packs, how the intro was being pretty much sourced from a lot of informational guides, from reviews, affiliates. I mean, not necessarily the players that will tend to know better all of the ins and outs of the products because they are not the actual sellers, right? And I see so many retailers losing visibility versus third-party publishers just like affiliate of these products just because they are not making a minimum effort in that front, right? So here, what they should think is, how do I differentiate myself and establish myself as a brand? How I leverage all of these insights that you already have from having sold hundreds of thousands of these products already, all of these reviews, all of these support tickets that you have answered on all of these insights and conditions and FAQs that you have addressed already, and create this presence that totally makes sense to establish yourself as, for example, the best player out there providing support for extreme sports goods, for example. This type of very specific niche many times. So this will be like a smaller player saying, oh, how will I compete with this huge retailer or with the brand? It's like that, right? Like comprehensive information to show that you have the know-how, you have the expertise, you have provided amazing support, and this is how you can help your audience to make the best decision in this field. This is what you already do many times already in your web presence, inside your website, but you are just not making the information findable to search engines on one hand, or it's not even living there yet because this is what you do in your physical store. But this is what you already have been doing with real salespeople. So it's translating all of that customer experience to your web first, and then making it well formatted and organized with a proper taxonomy to integrate well with the web architecture, with your more commercially focused and driven pages, so they can refer to them, they can support them, and they can attract a lot of authority, popularity. These are the type of content that users love to share spontaneously and to link to. And eventually, this is what will get the visibility for all of these query variations regarding the more informational aspects of your topic, of your industry or sector, right? This is a type of mindset or criteria that I try to incentivize with even e-commerce, that I will say are more the most commercially driven or focused type of clients that I tend to work with. That it will pay off eventually, as long as the content is not fluff content, it's actually meaningful, actionable content on one hand, and it really showcases their expertise, their unique selling proposition, and connects with the products that they actually sell.
But it is a challenge to determine the value of the visibility that you have in the SERP if you don't get visits through from that. And then added on top of that, you've also got the personalised SERP as well. And it's a real challenge to determine what individuals are seeing as well. So how can you possibly measure the value of your visibility if there are so many different personalised SERPs out there?
Yes, so this actually will only get more complex with the AI personalized SERPs that Google already announced for certain type of queries. So for example, for restaurant advice and more local services type of advice, they already share a few months back a video of how the SERPs will pretty much be completely personalized based on the specific location and characteristics and even the history of the person searching for those. And this is the type of stuff that, on one hand, I will say, first layer, you need to track how do you get those visits, what are all of the query permutations. The Google Search Console can provide a little bit of that, but not necessarily everything, doesn't tell you the whole story. I will say to do benchmarks, to see all of the different type of formats and visibility of the type of presence that are getting any sort of visibility in SERPs, and go and do a little bit of additional search results, keyword research, to see what are the search results and the type of query behavior in those additional platforms. I'm talking about YouTube. I'm talking about TikTok. There is a wealth of information there and queries that not necessarily are yet addressed with properly formatted to rank well web presence on one hand, and then a lot of visibility that is referred to these external platforms that you don't know what you don't know, right? You might be missing because you are not even trying to assess them. So that on one hand. Then on the other hand, there are more and more rank trackers that will not only focus on the position, but also in their visibility share, not only at the query level, but at the topic level group of queries that you track. So for example, in advanced web ranking and in many others, you can create groups of queries and see, okay, in the last year, these are the type of pages from these websites and I see that, for example, with Reddit, right, that have gotten more and more visibility share for this group of, an example, sneakers queries that I am targeting with my PLPs still or with my PDPs. And the player that have started to gain visibility share in the last year more and has even outgrown in visibility share versus many other retailers is Reddit, is Quora, is informational content, or is even YouTube, right? What does this tell us? What is the type of content that Google is trying to give more visibility to? So how we can integrate those to get that visibility ourselves on one hand. So that is certainly another layer. Then what I mentioned before about going to those particular platforms that are getting this visibility. What is the type of content that is produced in Reddit, and what is the one that get more traffic or more visibility that and what we can learn from those to create our own one, right? And eventually to do our own test and assessment. For sure, we cannot create all of the content all of a sudden just because the other players are doing it. But first, filter what is more aligned with the already existing content strategy, with our own goals, with the products that we want to push. And if we are still have all of this large number of potential topics to address, and with a very low search volume, because yes, all is personalized and tools won't be able to track as much and tell us as much specific numbers, to start doing pilot projects and tests to see what brings more and what resonates more and the type of engagement our users have with this, not only in SERPs, but also when we push and promote our content within our own communities, in social, and many other type of campaigns that we should have, like diversity or diversify the channels here right now, I believe is key. So that is how I will assess. It's not straightforward or as straightforward as it was before, but going through all of these steps will allow us to identify the trends, the patterns, the type of content on one hand that actually is getting more visibility and that we are missing out, and how it can connect better with the ones that will bring more value, more revenue for our brand on what actually matters, right? And yeah, potentially those that will tend to bring many times more views might not necessarily be the one that will engage the most, or the ones that will end up converting better. So learning and going more into all of this impressions versus clicks versus click-through rate versus conversion, final conversion, etc., will be more and more important. Balance that to what actually makes sense for our goals will be key.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time focusing on long-tail targeted content in 2025?
Where are your conversions coming? Go and take a look on one hand. Where is your revenue coming right now? Which are those pages that are bringing conversions? And what you can do to make these pages to run better if they are not yet, or to complement them with additional content that you don't have that will help to support these pages already, or will be able to create new pages to rank for tangential or related topics that are also a good opportunity that are very similar to those. So very low-hanging fruit oriented, I will go.
Aleyda Solis is SEO consultant and founder at Orainti, and you can find her over at Orainti.com. Aleyda, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.